So, hello there, I'm Carla Etten, and I live in the Brambleton community. I'm a member of the Brambleton Bluebird and Garden Club. I'm also a Virginia Master Naturalist and a Virginia Master Gardener. And I'm here today to show you a little bit of a tutorial on how we monitor bluebird nest boxes. Here in Brambleton we have 5 trails and we have over 60 nest boxes. And today we're starting to install our first bluebird trail in the Birchwood community. We have some 14 nest boxes there, so we look forward to volunteer participation from everyone. So here we are at a nest box in the background here, and I'm looking around to see what kind of bird species might be in the area before I actually get close to the box. I'm going to take out my data book. And we are what is called the Southeast Trail, and we have nest boxes all located within the park system here in Brambleton. And we are going up to box, I think, 1. Good morning. Here we are at box 1, and we're going to take a look in our data book to see what the last monitoring produced. Now, we monitor weekly from early March through to mid-September thereabouts. Our bluebird population will have up to 3 broods in a year, but we also monitor house wrens, tufted titmice, chickadees, and tree swallows. And every week, just once a week, a monitor or family of monitors comes out and they document what they see in each box. So last week we had an empty box, so we're going to open this box up to see if it's still empty or to see if we have another nest. At the time of filming this, we are at the beginning of July, and bluebirds will brood up to 3 times a year. So we are at the time right now where most all of our species have already fledged their young. So now we're looking for renewed nests, and we'll see what we get.
And why bluebirds?
Well, bluebirds are kind of an indicator species for North America. In the 1970s and earlier, they were wiped out. Actually, by the 1970s, they were on the rise again because of human intervention. But in the early 1900s, the house sparrows and starlings were introduced to North America up in New York City and other areas because they decided they wanted to have birds that resembled what they were used to watching in England or in Europe in general. So unfortunately, though, house sparrows kills our native species, and so we're trying to protect the species of bluebirds and other native cavity nesters, and that way we can keep the population going. It's particularly in Brambleton because we are a huge housing development and their native habitat is disappearing quite fast. So we're doing our part by these man-made cavities versus a tree. What they will nest in is typically a hole in a tree, and that's why we call them secondary cavity nesters, because the primary cavity nesters are actually woodpeckers. So a woodpecker will create holes for their nests in what we call snags or dead trees. Therefore, next season, bluebirds or other cavity nesters will come along and then reuse that hole for their nests. But here in Northern Virginia, and especially this community, if you remove old dead trees, you're removing the population of woodpeckers. Thereby, there's no place for our bluebirds and other native cavity nesters to have their homes. What we find in western Loudoun, we have a very good population. But here we want to try to keep them in the community as much as we can by providing habitat and shelter for them.
Great.
All right, I'll go ahead and open this up. Let's see what we got. What we have here is a bucket full of tools that we monitors use. And in this bucket is, of course, our data notebook. And you're going to find other things very important to us, like insect spray, because we do have ticks here, so we always spray up. Next we have antibacterial wipes, and because sometimes you need to clean your hands after messing with these nest boxes. We have tools to help clean out the nests and then clean out the boxes. So we have a paint scraper, a paintbrush, and looks like a duster, which is kind of a cool little application here. And we have trash bags and gloves and soap, and I'll explain what soap is for later. And of course, all important items that we always use: Phillips head screwdriver, a car mirror, it's a telescoping mirror, and I'll show how we use that, and then the flashlight. So, I'm going to put on my gloves. Even though bluebirds can't smell, it's still a good thing to do. Not everyone does it, but there's some hardcore monitors out there that always say wear gloves because you don't want human scent around the nest boxes. And the reason for that is because you have cats hanging around, you have raccoons, you have snakes. Well, the snakes don't care about the smell, but you also have bear lately. So we have other predators, and the bears will actually come, knock over the boxes, smash them, and get to whatever's in there to eat. Raccoons will get up and climb up and put their paws through to try to reach and get the young or eggs. Snakes will climb up and try to get in boxes and eat whatever's in there. So this is called a baffle, and it's to help protect the nestlings or hatchlings from predators. So the snakes would come along and get up in there and then get stuck. And sometimes you get predators anyway, it's just nature, and we just do the best we can. So I have approached the box, I've checked around me to see what species of birds are around. I can hear them. I hear tree swallows right now. And I know from last visit, this particular nest box was emptied out because we had a nest of tree swallows that had just fledged. So when I come up to the nest box, I'm going to look all around. I'm going to check for other predators, which are insects, ants and wasps and things. And I'm going to knock on it, because if there's anything in there, we want the mama to have a chance to get off the nest. And I don't see anything, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to open up the box. Now here, this is called a predator guard, and we try to put them on every opening. This helps for if a raccoon comes along and tries to get their arms through there, and it makes it really tough for them. We're going to open it slowly. You take a peek, and I see that there is nothing in this box but a lot of poop. And that's okay. And it's actually been cleaned out fairly well. So we're going to close it back up, and we'll go to the next one. Typically our trails have anywhere from 10 to 14 nest boxes. Any more than that, it gets to be a little bit too long of a walk for most people.
How often do you have to move them?
Move the nest boxes themselves? We only move the nest boxes if it's not producing, or if it's been damaged, or worse yet, if house sparrows have invaded. Once a house sparrow gets in a nest, they don't want to leave it, and they will keep rebuilding and rebuilding, and they won't leave that space. So sometimes we'll just leave the door open and see if that dissuades the house sparrows. But if they're still that persistent, then we'll actually take the whole box and move it someplace else.
And the size of the box, the hole is small for the bluebird.
Yes, the size for bluebirds in particular is 1.5 inches diameter, and that is so that larger species like starlings can't get into the nest box. But again, smaller species like the chickadees and the wrens can still access the hole.
Okay.
You ready?
Ready?
We're coming up to box number 5 on the Southeast Trail. And just a week or so ago, we had house wrens that have fledged out of this nest box. So it was cleaned out already, so we're gonna go to see if there's anything going on in this box. Right now as I approach, I don't see any other species around. I'm gonna approach it slowly, but I do see that there's some scraps of some material. So we're gonna go by and take a look. Now, you never come to the front to try to open the box. Come from the side, knock on it, and then proceed to go ahead and open it up. So because I do this trail all the time and I've read the history of these boxes, I kind of know what to expect. So let's see what's going on in this box. Oh, this is a house wren. You can tell the species of bird by the type of nest. So what we're going to do now, because you can't see in there, so I'm going to kind of close it up for a second. I'm going to go back and get my tools. So this is how we use our telescoping mirror. I'm going to open it up slowly, and we're going to take the flashlight. I'm going to put that in there. Sometimes you don't need the flashlight, but I'm going to try to see what I can see in there, and I can tell you right now that this is an empty nest, and this is actually a partial nest. What you see in the front is the beginnings of a nest, but not so much in the back. There's no wasp in there, but I see a little bit of a little thing here. I'm going to reach in here and try to get this. Here you go. If you can see it in the glove, that was a little beginnings of a wasp nest, but I don't see any wasps at the moment. So I'm going to I think what we're going to do is, this is little more than just a partial nest. It's almost fully done. So I'm going to leave it here. And then I will mark up in the notebook what I have seen. Okay, back again. Now we're at nest box number 7. The other boxes that we've looked at have thus far been emptied because, of course, the second brood has already hatched and gone on. So I'm looking around. I don't see any parents around. I hear a little bit of chatter, but what I see are a bunch of sticks. And right now I know that there's a house wren in this box that's building a nest. So we're going to open it up and take a quick look, see what we can find out. Now, it's interesting, placement of these nest boxes is critical. We're trying to attract a lot of bluebirds, but again, all of our native cavity nesters are federally protected. So we care about all of them. And we got a partial nest. It's doing pretty good. I'm going to check to see if there's any eggs in there, but I think it's a little too soon. No eggs just yet. So we still have a house wren that is partial. Now this kind of concerns me a little bit because the last box we went to was another house wren nest. Now house wrens, this is talking about positioning of these nest boxes. When you happens to us all. When you position these nest boxes close to a lot of trees and shrubbery, that's what habitat nest wrens or house wrens prefer. But what's fun about house wrens is that they love to make dummy nests. And so they'll take up 3 or 4 nest boxes with just dummy nests to try to save which one that they're going to prefer. And the one they prefer, you might see a little moss in it and then maybe an egg. And then that means all the other ones you probably can go ahead and clean out. So I don't know if this is going to be a dummy nest, but we'll give it another week and see what we get. We have a fledged nest, and this is what the tree swallow nest looks like. You can see it's mostly made up of grasses and lots of feathers. And you can see all the poop that's left. So what I've done is I've cleaned out the box. We try to do this after each brood because we want to make sure that it does not attract insects, and especially mites and ants, which are quite dangerous to hatchlings. So what we're going to do is put this nest in a trash bag and take it with us and then discard it. We're looking at the box number 10, and I see in the book, the data book, that last week we had a house wren nest in there and some eggs. So I'm going to check out to see if we still have eggs or more eggs than 4, and to see if we have any babies yet. I think it's a little too soon for the babies, but we're going to check this out. I don't see any parents nearby. Of course, it's going to be midday. They're probably out eating. It's a hot day, and they're not going to be on the nest. We're going to come close to it. We're going to see what's around the box. We got a lot of material starting to come out of it. So this is a full nest in a very little box. By the way, there's many different types of nest boxes, but that's for another day. Where's the opening for this one? Sometimes you can't find the openings, but I think it's over here. Oh, look at that. Come take a look. The outside. I'm going to stick my telescoping mirror in, which you can get online. It's an automotive. We've got a lot of eggs. Let me go from this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 eggs, which is a pretty good showing because later in the season, a lot of these species don't lay as many eggs as what they do initially. And what I will do is, let me get my cell phone out. This is what we also do. We use modern technology, and we will actually go in and try to get a picture if we can. Oh, wrong here. This box is a little small, so I don't know if we're going to be able to see it. I'll try one more time. There we go. And now, I don't know if you can see this, but we've got pictures of the eggs. And when we send the data of this week's findings to the other monitors on this team, I will send pictures as well. So I'm going to close this back up.
And do you have a Facebook group where you update?
We do. We have a Brambleton Bluebird and Garden Club Facebook group. It's private, by invite only. But we post data there and pictures and any questions you have about nature and birds and so forth. So what I'm going to do is update the notebook to say we've got 5 eggs, and then I'm going to do some math and try to figure out about when these eggs will hatch. They typically hatch around 13 to 14 days. So I will go back and look at the date and we'll do some math. Hello again, we're coming up to nest box number 11, and we have tree swallows. And if you can see, the parents or the previous fledglings are in the area. Now these guys are really fun. They're acrobatic flyers, and they're very protective of their nests. And occasionally you get dive bombed, but don't worry, they don't want to touch you. They just want to scare you. So, last week, it said we actually had 4 young in there, and they might be about 13 days old. We're going to just peek in. If they're too big, I'm not going to open it up all the way because they're like teenagers when they get to be close to fledge time, and they want to get out of the nest as soon as possible, and it might be too early for them. So we don't leave the box open very long. You can see they're already getting upset, which means you got some good babies in here. Let's see what we got. Now these might be juveniles from previous broods. They all kind of stay together as a family, and when tree swallow hatchlings are about ready to fledge, you'll see the whole family get out there and fly around to try to attract them to come on out. It's a cute thing to see. Now, I'm going to do this, be very careful because we're really on the cusp of when we should not open the box. And it's about a period of 7 days where we don't open the box to give them time to fledge. They're in there. I'll take a quick photo. And they're very quiet when they're in there. And they're getting big. So I think next week, this coming week, they're going to fledge. Let's take a quick picture. And we are done. Okay, that was it. Then we leave the area right away. We don't linger. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but I usually lighten these photos up, but there's definitely 4 babies in there, and they're pretty well feathered out, and they're going to fledge next week. So again, we're going to leave the area because we don't want to disturb them too much, and move on. Now we like to monitor on nice sunny days. We don't monitor on cold, windy, or rainy days because we don't want to upset the microclimate within the nest box. Oh, hi again. This is the grand finale of the Southeast Trail on box number 12. Last week, the data says that we had 2 bluebird eggs and 1 hatchling. We're going to take a look and see what we got. Now, I looked around me and I thought I saw some parents come off the trees, but we shall see what we find. I'll peek quickly. Oh, okay. Well, we've got 1 hatchling, pretty well feathered out. I'll take a quick picture, and 2 eggs. So the eggs did not make it for whatever reason. So we're going to wait for this baby to fledge, and then we'll clean out the whole nest. And occasionally what we do is we actually save nests with the eggs for educational purposes. Only if you're a licensed handler are you supposed to be supposed to be able to do this. And you have to get if you join the Bluebird Society, then you're automatically covered to be able to do this. Okay, that's long enough. Oh, peek, you want to peek real quick? Yep. Can you see in there? I should use my gloves, but it kind of is hard. I should use more rubber gloves because otherwise it slips too much. Okay, so that was the first peek at a bluebird baby on this trail because all the others have fledged, but I suspect we're going to have in another week or so some new nests for the 3rd and last brood of the season. Once the bluebirds have fledged, as with other cavity nesters, they typically leave the area for about 2 weeks. And if they're going to brood again, they'll come back, and especially bluebirds, they'll usually come back to the same location. And so I expect next week we might see some partial nests for the bluebirds. So we're still here at box 12. I just want to show you a little bit about bluebird math. Last week, the data suggests that the age of this young hatchling is about 5 days. So we're about another 5 days out. So this baby is about 10 days old. And when we get close to day 13 and 14, then we put in the data book, do not open, because they're going to fledge from anywhere to 17 to 22 days, and we don't want to disrupt them. The other thing we have in our data books is a lot of information about all of our cavity nesters, about days of incubation for the eggs, about what their clutch size is going to be, when they fledge, and how many broods per season they will have. And we have examples of what each nest will look like and what the eggs would look like. But what's really fun, and you can get all this information online, but we have bluebird math here. They're going to brood for about 19, 20 days, and then you'll see the babies come. Then we start the math all over again with day 1 after they've hatched. The bluebirds will all hatch on the exact same day, but interestingly enough, they only lay 1 egg a day, but they all catch up in the end when she starts sitting on the nest. I'm trying to look for, here's a look at the different nest boxes. Oh, here we go. And you can also age the babies in the nest by the amount of feathering they have. And so the one I just looked at actually looks more like 11 days to me. But up to day 14, they're getting to be teenagers, and they're developing really quick after day 14. And they're about ready to start wanting to get out of that box. So if you'd like to come join us on the trail, please do. We will provide training, and it's a great fun activity to do with your family. We advise that children go with adults because of the nature of what you're doing. Sometimes you will find unpleasant things in the nest boxes. If we do have a house sparrow come by, again, the house sparrow will kill the bluebirds and anything else in the box, and it's kind of gory, so an adult should be around. And it's, again, once a week. You have teams of maybe 5 to 10 people, so you're lucky if you actually get on the trail maybe once a month. But we have plenty of trails, so you can do different trails for different change of scene. So please come join us.